Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of Nasdaq Spotlight live from the Microsoft Ignite conference in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Anna Gonzalez, and we're continuing our conversations with Stuart Bashford. He's the Chief Digital Officer of the Buhler Group. Stuart, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having us.
So tell us a little bit about the company and what you do.
So the Buhler Group is the #1 technical solution provider into the food and feed processing industry. We're a family-run company, and we have a history of about 160 years. If I give you a quick stat, just to sort of excite you a little bit, 65% of the world's grain goes through our equipment. So 65% of the world's grain supply, rice, wheat, maize, gets processed by our equipment. And if you think about digitalization and the opportunities that brings, we have a huge opportunity to make a real difference to some serious global issues.
Absolutely, and I can imagine. What are you doing here at the conference? How are you partnering with Microsoft? How are you taking that technology and that stat and making an impact with them?
So Microsoft asked to come here to Microsoft, the Ignite show, to be an example of a company that's actually putting AI, advanced data analytics, industrial IoT into action, with real customer interactions and making a real difference. So what we're showcasing here is one machine that we have which can actually identify a particular toxin in maize at a very, very rapid rate. Essentially what the machine can do is analyze corn, and then for whether it's good or bad. And we don't just analyze every single grain of corn, we split that into 100 different pixels, and we analyze each individual one for if it's good or bad. And if it's bad, we reject it in under 7 milliseconds.
So tell me a little bit more about that process, because I would imagine, what technology are you using to be able to read those pixels, and then how exactly does that work? How does it reject it?
So what we do is we actually use special sensors, special camera technology, which has been essentially enabled through latest advances in technology in general. What this allows us to do is we read the pixels in, we use DSPs and FPGAs because we have to do this analysis in under 80 microseconds, so very, very fast. This is all done on board, although the sorting algorithm itself has come up offline using, as it happens, Microsoft data analytics tools to help us get the sorting algorithm right. And then essentially what we do is we just read in these pixels. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it bad? If it's bad, we then make the rejection decision very, very quickly. And just to put that into context, if you hold a kilogram bag of rice, for example, you can imagine buying that in a supermarket. If you chop the bottom of that bag, like with a lightsaber, for example, and all the rice falls to the floor, these machines are quick enough to sort it into good or bad before it's hit the floor.
Wow,
that's how quick they are.
So I can imagine another theme that we've been talking about here is data and all the analysis that you get, and then how you're able to use it for so many different reasons and predictions, whatever the case may be. When your machines are doing that, how are you using that data? Is there a second step? Is there another benefit to this?
So the benefit with this particular machine, the main benefit is that we can actually detect the presence of this toxin. And this toxin causes real issues. 155,000 people every single year die from liver cancer, which is caused from this naturally occurring toxin. And it's actually a bigger problem in the developing world than it is in the developed world, where places like Kenya and Africa, less than 20% of the maize is actually fit for human consumption. So these guys don't actually really have much of a choice, of course. They need to eat. So the main benefit of the whole project is to be able to use the data to be able to detect and reject this sort of very dangerous toxin.
And then can you predict anything from the source?
So next stage was what we're working on is to take this data, perhaps hook into publicly available databases, because this problem it's a well-known problem. The World Health Organization has studied it. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has also studied it in terms of the prevalence and the occurrence of this. So what we're looking at as the next step is, can we hook into these publicly available databases, some of the academic records, also maybe use weather records, also maybe tap into storage, or how the grain was stored, because that can affect it significantly as to the susceptibility of this particular toxin. So next step is to see if we can get some enhanced predictability in there from the data that's available.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So as you're talking to different people around the world, or maybe even here at the conference, what kind of trends are you really seeing out in your industry? So
in the industry as a whole, it's a really exciting time to be in our case, in the food and feed processing industry. What we see is we're a we're a leader in what we do, and certainly in terms of the digital side of things, you know. And what we see is our customers are incredibly receptive to the new digital technologies. Some of them want absolutely everything. They want AR, VR, cloud, mobile, IoT platform. You know, and what we have to actually slow them down a little bit and say, look, okay, let's try and solve a real problem. You know, that's what we're about. Let's solve a real problem. And the solution to that problem might be blockchain, or it might be some cloud-based analytics. It might be advanced data analytics, whatever, you know. But the solution might also be just an extra little checkbox on a paper form, you know. So one important part of that process is start to build the relationship with the customer, build a little bit of trust. Let's not throw technology at a problem, let's find the right solution for the job.
And when you think about what's coming next in the industry, what most excites you about the future, there's a lot.
I tell you what, I mean, there is. I mean, to be honest, everything excites me about the future. What I love at the moment about where we are right now with where technology is just the possibilities. You know, we can actually deliver solutions to our customers that even just as little as 5 years ago were not commercially viable to be able to deliver. You know, maybe they were technically possible, but not in a commercial sense. You know, now we move forward, the cost of transferring data, the cost of storing data, sensor technology has improved, the general cost of all this stuff has dropped to a point where technically it's more than possible, and it's also a commercially viable proposition. And the really interesting thing, of course, is where we are at the moment with digital topics generally, is that the real senior level of a lot of these companies is actually pushing to have this technology in their processes because they see the value and they see the benefit. So for guys like me who are, I mean, I'm into technology anyway, I love it all. This is great. It's a great time to be doing what I'm doing.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
We'll ask you some fun questions. So are you ready for this?
Yes.
Lightning round. So what app can you absolutely not live without?
Right now, today, it would probably be Twitter, but in normal life, Spotify.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I can't do without Spotify. I spend a lot of time on planes and in airports. I need Spotify.
And what is the coolest technology you would say you have in your office?
Well, it's got to be the coffee machine, isn't it? I mean, everything starts with the coffee machine.
As long as it's good coffee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
we have a headquarters in Switzerland. We have some very good coffee in Switzerland. And Buhler makes coffee processing equipment as well. So.
Yeah, perfect. So what do you like to do when you're not working?
I'm slightly ashamed to admit that I've got slightly far too into a computer game on the phone called Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which I picked up for about 3 minutes to see why my son was playing it, and now about 2 years later I seem to still be playing it secretly when no one's looking, but I guess that secret's out.
Yeah. I'm sure there are plenty of people who can sympathize with you. So Stuart, as we start to wrap up, tell me, for people who are watching and thinking one day I want to be in Stuart's shoes, what advice do you have for them?
The biggest thing I would say is I've been very, very lucky in that my interests and my enjoyment kind of have aligned with my profession, and I don't know which one came first, but just enjoy your job. If you're not enjoying your job, go and find something you do enjoy, do that, because you'll be far more effective.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, thanks very much. Great.
And thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more conversations right here from the Microsoft Ignite Conference.